All right. We are going to start with a little bit of our Pilates work here. Hopefully this will be in that 15-minute time frame. And a couple of things before we begin. You are welcome to lift the head through this or not, especially when we get to some of the leg work and upper body work. If we are lifting the head, you can always support it with a ball underneath. You want to be careful of flexion in the neck. So we're going to start with our legs coming up in 90 degrees. Two things you can think about here. To support that back, you can always slide your hands underneath your buns. If you want a little extra ab challenge, hands out to the side. Hands underneath buns, tucks the pelvis, helps that relationship from front of the thigh to that low back. So we're going to begin with a double leg lower. You're going to see me go with hands underneath. And this idea of using the weight of the legs to help and really challenge those low abs. So we're going to inhale, start to lower those bent knees. It really comes from the hips. On your exhale, we're going to lift those legs back up just as slow as you can, drawing that belly into spine. So we're going to inhale. Each one of these we can do 8 to 10 times. We're going to exhale, slowly lift back up. Inhale, lowering down. And exhale, lift. And I should mention, if you've been seated for a long period of time, you're hopping into this video, you might do a little bit of side to side twisting. You might do a little bit of stretching for the front of those thighs. We've got 4 more to go here. We're going to inhale to lower. As I'm lowering, I'm trying not to arch my back. I'm going to exhale, lift. Now, hands underneath helps with that. If hands are out, we're only going so low that you don't end up lifting back off of the mat. And you'll notice for me, that's a lot less. We're going to inhale, lower, and exhale. My legs weigh a lot. One more time. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift back up. Draw those knees into chest. Give yourself a little rock side to side. You could also circle around that sacrum. We can think of that sacrum as a little clock you're trying to hit every hour. Reverse your circle. We're going to straighten those legs. And once those legs are straight, we'll flex the feet. That really helps activate those legs. Same rule applies. Hands can be underneath your buns or out. If they're underneath, it's going to protect your back a little bit more. So we're going to inhale, start to lower straight legs. You again only lower so far that you don't arch the back. We're going to exhale, slowly lift. You'll go less far if your hands are not underneath. Inhale, distance isn't really important here. What we're trying to pay attention to is that we're not popping the belly, arching the back. Both of these will be a challenge. So we'll inhale to lower, and then we'll exhale, slowly lift. Now, one of the modifications you can do is a slight bend to the knee. That takes it out of the tops of the thighs. And I know you're a walker and a hiker, so if it's been a lot of using the tops of the thighs, we can make sure that we soften those knees. Let's do 3 more. We're going to inhale, lower. Exhale, every exhale, belly draws in. We try to take our time as we lift. Inhale, lowering down. And then exhale, slowly lift back up. One last time, we're going to inhale, lower. Exhale, slowly lift back up. Bend your knees into your chest. And again, just take a few moments here to wiggle around. We're going to get ready to do some oblique work. Now, right now, I'm in a very neutral spine, which is really good for anybody with osteopenia, osteoporosis, no flexion in the spine. So that's what you're seeing here. Keeping a very neutral spine, working on what will be all layers of the abs without ever having to lift the head into deep flexion. So we're going to come now into our nice 90-degree legs. So shins are parallel. We're going to flex those feet to fire them up. We're going to take a nice deep inhale. Let your legs drop over to one side. We're going to do 4 just for a warm up here, and then we'll add in a little level of difficulty. We're going to inhale opposite side. As you exhale, draw belly back to spine. Inhale over. Exhale. Now you're going to notice you probably are using your hands a little bit, using arms. That's fairly normal. And we're going to take that support away here after these next 2. So we inhale over and exhale back through center. Inhale over. Exhale back through center. Let's do this last one this way. Inhaling over and exhale. Inhale over. Exhale. Now we can add a level in to make it a little bit more difficult. I've got my palms facing each other. It's almost like I'm holding onto a volleyball. I do the same move with my legs, but I try not to let my arms wiggle around. They don't sway. They don't open up. We're going to exhale, come back through center. Inhale over and exhale center. Inhaling. So this is going to work abs. We're going to challenge the back a little bit as well. Inhale over. Exhale, 2 more of these. Nice stable arms, inhaling. It helps keep us from cheating. If we go too far, we're actually stretching abs rather than staying connected in those obliques. And so arms are just keeping us honest here. We're gonna inhale over and exhale, one last set. Inhale, exhale. Bring feet to the floor, take a moment. Stretch your legs, give them a good little wiggle. You can reach arms overhead. We're just trying to get out of those hip flexors here. We're going to get ready to do a little bit of single leg lowering. I should get your list out here and make sure I do it all correctly. I conveniently wrote it down. I forgot to tip it up there. All right, we're going back into 90-degree knees. And this time it's going to be a little bit of a scissor switch. Hands underneath to support. Arms out or even out to a T to make it a little bit more challenging. When you're ready, we're going to inhale. We're going to lower one heel. If hands are underneath the buns, it's likely to tap. If they aren't, it's unlikely to tap. We're going to exhale, slowly lift that leg back up. We're going to inhale, lower opposite leg, it taps. Use that full exhale to get that leg back up into 90 degrees. We're going to inhale, lower, and exhale, lift. Inhale, lower, exhale. We'll do 8 of these. We're going to inhale and exhale. Inhale, lower, and exhale. This idea of lowering to tap using legs as weight to challenge those low, deep abs, but also trying to get some pelvic stability here. Inhale, lower. And exhale, lift back up. Inhale. And exhale, last 3 sets. We're going to inhale, lower. And exhale. Inhale, lower. Exhale. 2 more sets, lower, tap. And exhale. Inhale. And exhale, one last set. Inhale, lower, tap. And exhale, tap, exhale. Let's bring both feet down. We're going to take our brief stretch. We're going to drop knees over to one side. If twisting is okay, you can get a little extra stretch if you send your feet wide. So knees go over, and that allows then this wide foot, allows that knee to drop a little bit deeper towards center, give you a little bit more stretch to the front of the thigh. We're going to switch sides. So these counter stretches are really to make sure we're not tightening something so much that it doesn't loosen, of course, or that we don't get a rebound, that we're using it and then we try to use it again and it kind of contracts and rebounds on us. We're getting ready for a pelvic curl, one of the best ways to build your back muscle and also make sure that you're engaging your hamstrings. I'm going to leave my arms wide. You're welcome to leave your hands down by your side. We do want to make sure our gaze is at the ceiling. This is a little bit of an inversion, always safe for anybody working with osteopenia, but we want to make sure we aren't looking right and left. Gaze always on the ceiling. So heels fairly close to the bottom. We've got about a fist width between those heels and knees. When you're ready, and I'm just going to use my hands here so because it's hard to see the tuck, we're going to tuck the pelvis. So I'm pressing my low back into the mat. I've tucked my pubic symphysis, and then I'm going to start to peel from my low back, mid back, upper back. So the weight stays between my shoulder blades. It shouldn't be in the head or the neck, and then we're going to melt back down. So we're going to try to keep those hips as high as we can, as long as we can, to really find that low, deep back. Once our waistband hits, we release back to a nice neutral pelvis. We'll exhale, draw belly in, tuck the tailbone. Start to peel from waistband, mid back. Right between those shoulder blades, we pause there. We're going to be in a nice straight line with abs engaged. Then we're going to melt back down, trying to keep that belly lower than that pubic symphysis until that waistband touches. And then we release back to neutral. We'll do 6 more. We're going to tuck. We're going to peel and lift. So some things to think about here. If you want to feel a little bit more at the top of your thigh, think about pushing through the toes as if you're pushing them to the edge of your mat. We're going to melt back down on your next exhale. If you want to engage a little more hamstring, we think about, but we don't really make it happen, that those heels are drawing closer to our bones. So if I pull my heels in, I already feel that I am engaging those hamstrings. I'm going to tuck and I'm going to keep pulling those heels in as if I'm trying to get my heels to touch my buns. As I peel to lift, I pause at the top for that inhale. I'm going to exhale, melt back down. Try to keep those hips high as long as you can. Hips hit and release. We'll exhale, tuck, peel and lift. Maybe we're pushing through the front of the toes. Maybe we're drawing heels into buns. If this is a hamstring cramper, on your exhale, we'll draw that belly and start to melt down. If your hamstring cramps, take time to stretch it. It's only going to get more cramped. So we want to make sure we kick it up towards the ceiling, give it some length. We'll tuck on the exhale. We start to peel. We start to lift. Now we're going to do 8 here. I highly recommend doing this anytime you're on the floor. We're going to melt back down. It is one of the most effective ways to build muscle in that back spine area, tugging on that spine, creating maybe a little bit of bone as well. We're going to tuck, we're going to peel and lift. Pause at the top. We'll exhale, melt back down. Belly's drawn in. We're in that tuck until our hips hit. And then we release to neutral pelvis. We're going to do 1 more. We're going to tuck, we're going to peel, and we're going to lift. Pause at the top. Try not to pop that rib cage. We'll exhale, melt back down. We're going to complement that with an ab workout here. 2 choices. If neck flexion is not recommended, you leave the head on the floor. We're going to stretch one leg long, the other leg reaches towards the ceiling. You do this whole series with head resting. If it's okay to lift head, we're going to walk ourselves up that leg. And the pulse here is as we pulse, we try to get that leg a little bit closer to us. So this is called hamstring pull 1. Head is either lifted or it's not. Here we go. We're going to pulse, we switch. Pulse, pulse, switch. Pulse, 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 switch. Pulse, pulse. Pulse 3, pulse, pulse. Pulse 4, pulse, pulse. Pulse 5, pulse, pulse. Pulse 6, pulse, pulse. Pulse 7, last set. Pulse, pulse. Pulse, pause. You get to decide again whether you want head lifted or not. We're going to bend that knee that's in the air. Both hands come on top of the shin. Opposite leg is going to lift just until it meets the foot. So once again, head either resting or engaging all those layers of abs. We're going to lift. This is called single leg stretch. We're going to switch and reach, switch, reach. Now, as my hand comes to my shin, I'm pushing up into my palm. Switch, reach, switch, reach. That's a little added exercise. Reach. And reach, switch, reach, reach. 2 more sets. Reach, reach. Last set. Reach, pause. Go ahead, rest your head. Shake your head no. If your head has been lifted, those neck muscles can get nice and tight. So we want to be careful there. Double leg stretch. Knees come up into 90 degrees. Once again, you can leave the head on the floor. If that's the case, your legs are going to go high on the wall. You'll swing your hands around, bend the knees. If your head is lifted, you have an opportunity to go a little bit lower with the legs. So we're going to inhale, stretch the legs, arms reach right overhead. Exhale, swing hands around. Inhale, stretch. I'm going to rest my head on this one. Exhale, 2. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, swing around 3. Inhale, arms always reach overhead and then they swing around 4. If your head is lifted, inhale, swing around 5. We want to make sure we don't lose any height so your head doesn't get to change. 6, 2 more. Inhale, 7, 1 more. Inhale, circle around. 8, go ahead, rest the head if it was lifted, shake your head no. We're going to be kind to the back, so we're going to roll to one side. We'll use our arms to press us up. We're going to do a little bit of back work to complement our ab work. So we're going to come onto our belly. And as we do, I'm going to ask you very specifically to place your hands really tucked right in underneath your underarms. And often we get them a little bit too high near the face. We would like them to be a little bit closer. The idea, or maybe closer to your underarms, the idea is that if I could push my fingers to the top of my mat, that's going to help me draw my shoulders down. So I want to make sure my shoulders aren't rounding forward. I have a very neutral head, no wrinkles in the back of the neck. I'm going to draw those shoulders away. I'm going to push my palms in. I'm going to use the strength of my palms to help me lift and lower. It happens on an inhale. So I'm going to inhale to lift, exhale, lower. And where we would like this to happen is your mid back. Inhale, not so much that low back. We're getting some arm work here. We're also warming up that back for a little bit more back extension. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhale, pressing in the palms, pressing fingers up towards the top of your mat as if you could draw your shoulders away from your ears. Inhale, we have 2 more to go. Exhale, height is not important here. We're looking for sensation. Can I get over my mid back? We're gonna pause, slide your arms out into 90-degree elbows. 90-degree elbows, a nice way to treat that neck. Not a fan of arms overhead when we might be working with some bone stuff. So nice neutral head here. My head is hovering, it might be a little bit hard to see. I'm gonna lengthen my legs. So I tighten my thighs, lift my kneecaps, and lengthen my legs. They didn't go very high, and that's okay. I'd rather see long legs than trying to lift with bent knees. We want this to come from your glutes and hamstrings. We're gonna lift the upper body. So we have long legs, upper body lifting, and we're gonna just start to swim. Now you could do a fast swim, which I'm doing right now. You could also do a slow swim where you're lifting opposites. So we go into really slow motion where I'll say my right hand lifts and my left leg lifts, and my left hand and right leg. So you could swim as fast or as slow as you like. I like to go slower. Swimming always feels a little bit like I can't breathe. So I go slower, but you can certainly keep swimming as fast as you like with those straight legs, trying not to let those knees bend. Arms are moving, torso's really stable. And then we're gonna pause. We're gonna come down to rest, and your feet wide. Give your hips a little wiggle. You might even slide those hands down by your side. We're going to go into a little bit more of a neutral spine strengthener in tabletop. So traditionally, this one is done when you're kind of extending and you're bending and rounding. I want you, if you can, think about a very neutral spine. So I'm neither dropping my belly nor rounding my back. I've got my hands on. It's also possible it feels better to be on wrists. So if you want to be on wrists or fists, I should say, fists so your wrists don't take this pressure, you can do that. If you are on palms, we're spreading our fingers out, giving ourselves a big high five on that mat to help distribute the weight out of the wrist. So to find that neutral spine, I'm going to push the mat away from me and take the belly out of the space between my shoulder blades. I'm going to draw my belly in, but that drawing in doesn't make me tuck. My tail feathers are still shining to the back of my mat. I'm going to hold this position, and then I just start to extend my leg. I might even peek down at my hips to make sure they stay parallel to the floor, that they don't open up. And you can add some things in here. You can add a glute squeeze to get a little bit more glute work. You can add the opposite arm reaching to get a cross crawl balance from your shoulder to your leg. We're going to come on down and give it a good little wiggle. We'll extend the opposite leg. We're still pushing away from the mat, drawing that belly in, lifting the leg without changing the hips. We might stay here. We might give it a good glute squeeze. We might reach arm. The other thing you can add in is a lift of both leg and arm without arching the back. So we're careful here not to arch. We'll come down. We're going to send ourselves back into child's pose just briefly. We've got one more exercise to do here for your core focus. We're going to rise up, and this is once again is where we're paying attention to our neutral spine, neither arched nor rounded. I'm going to press my mat away from me. I could be on fist to protect those wrists. I'm going to extend one leg. And this becomes very deep core work if we can imagine someone is keeping us from drawing our knee into our underarm. Like they're hanging onto our toes or ankle and trying to keep us from doing that. We're going to do each side 5 times without rounding back or swaying back. So we're practicing this neutral spine position while we're using abs hip flexors, building really what we call full body integration. So you're building shoulder, you're building arm muscle, you're building chest muscle, spine, all of that good stuff. Last time, that might be 6 on that side, but we've got 1 to grow on, right? We're going to go ahead, bring that knee down. We're going to switch sides. Press the mat away from you. Pull the belly in. Extend that opposite leg. Exhale, draw in. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, drawing in without changing that spine. 2. Exhale, somebody's trying to keep you from doing it. Offer yourself resistance. 3. Exhale, you could add leg weights here if you wanted. 4. Exhale, I chuckle because, oh man, that would be tough. 5. Pause here. Let yourself either come back into child's pose, but you might bring your hands down by your side, or you can always come to elbows, rounding the back slightly, dropping the head, giving the head a good shake now. That's a nice, what I call quick and dirty core workout to get everything surrounding front and back to build some back muscle, core muscle, and hopefully some tug on that spine to build a little bit of strength in those bones.